I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, and then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future, and instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be. Man, I came close to nailing it that time. So, this is the title of this episode of the podcast is Win the Day Every Day. And I'm going to go back to a topic that I originally addressed in episode 25, morning routine momentum. Now, don't go anywhere. Even if you have a morning routine, I want you to hear this. I want you to understand how I look at this and really understand just how valuable and how life-changing having a written morning routine can be. So first, let's just talk about this whole process of having a morning routine. You know, one of the reasons that I'm obsessed with my routine, and if you haven't heard mine, you can go to episode 25. I detail it there. I also provide a link so you can download it. And I'm obsessed about mine. You know, I've had a morning routine since I was in my early teens, about 13 years old when I had to start getting myself to school, 12 or 13 when I had to start getting myself to school. I started writing it about that time. And at the very beginning, it was just a simple checklist with 10 or 15 items. And what it allowed me to do was practice the same process, go through the same things every day, make sure I was improving my time, improving efficiency, getting out of the house earlier and getting to school on time. That was my whole goal back then. Over the course of the last 30 years, as I've refined my routine, played with it, added more to it, it's got tons of items on it now. It's probably about 30 different items each morning. Here's what I've found, is that it changes everything. Because as an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that every day you are prepared in three ways. One, physiologically, your physical body is prepared, hydrated, ready to go. You've had the right nutrition. You're going to take on the day in a way that an evolutionary hunter should. The second way that you should be prepared is cognitively, like mentally. Have you offloaded? Do you understand where you're going? Are you clear on what you're doing? Do you know what you're going to do next? And then here's the big one, the third one, chemically. We want to make sure we are chemically prepared, chemically supported to move forward. Because if we have physiological, cognitive, and chemical momentum, we go fast. But if we're slowed down in one of those places, you know, if physiologically you feel great, you're ready to go, but your just body's tired, or you're not hydrated, or you haven't had the right nutrition, or your body's feeling great, but you cognitively don't know where you're going, or your body's feeling great, you know where you're going, but chemically you haven't done everything you can to support yourself, to make sure that you are getting out of an adrenal cycle and into a dopamine cycle, then you're holding yourself back. This weekend, I was at the farmer's market, and I met a really cool guy who was working one of the booths, and he had a spice company, and he was a former ranger. And I like hanging out with special forces guys because they understand morning routine. They understand process. They understand making it more efficient, making it more effective. You know, as a kid, there was an advertisement for the military, and it was something like, we get more done by 8 a.m. than most people do all day. Well, with special forces, it's like they get more done before 6 a.m. than most people do all day. And how do they do that? Commitment to a process, commitment to a routine. And it changes how you look at the day. So I'm going to just give you some ways that having a written routine has helped me, because I want you to reflect for yourself how this could help you. So first things first, you know, each morning I want to make sure that I do things like I physiologically get my body prepared. I get my kids out for our morning walk. I hyperhydrate. If I want to add something that I make sure gets done every day, here's what I do. I put it on my written morning routine checklist because you know, and I know that if we have a checklist and we leave something unchecked, it bugs us. And if we have a checklist and we check something, it gives us a little hit of dopamine. So every single day, I go through a written morning routine checklist. I check all the boxes off. And I know that, like, as an example, if I want to add meditation to my morning routine, I suggest this to entrepreneurs all the time. And one of the things that I hear back is, oh, Alex, I just can't find the time. Well, I meditate with a Muse headband or I meditate with a Hemi-Sync. It takes anywhere from about 3 to 25 minutes, depending on the time of day I'm doing it. My morning meditation is usually 3 minutes. Here's how I find the time. It's in my morning routine. It's part of a process I do every day. It's written. So a morning routine will help you, quote, find the time for the stuff that you haven't been able to get to. And we all have those things. And meditating every morning, I'll tell you, that is physical momentum for me, physiological, that is cognitive, that is chemical. Now, the second reason that a morning routine written is so important is that if you're just going through your routine and it's not written, then you aren't really getting the efficiency you can. Because when you write it down and commit to the process and look at it day after day, here's what will happen. You'll start improving your process. You'll start increasing your effectiveness, your efficiency in the morning. You'll start getting more done before 6 a.m. or 8 a.m., whatever you want, than most people do all day. And I really believe, in my case, I do that. Like by the time 9 a.m. rolls around, I've beaten most people. I've won the day. I'm ahead of the majority of the population by a lot. I've been up since 4:30. I've exercised. I've hydrated. I've taken on nutrition. I've spent time with my family. I've made certain that I've created the ideal outcome for the day. I know my intention. I know where I was uncomfortable the day before. I know exactly what my top 3 are that I need to attack and need to make sure that I get done. And I'm ready to go. And I think the vast majority of the population simply can't say that. The vast majority of the population gets up and starts running in this race that they haven't determined where the start or finish line is. When you have a morning routine, you create the process that you can attack, you can go after, you can get through and create massive momentum. And then this might be the most important reason for you to commit to a written morning routine right now. You write out the checklist, you check all the boxes, because when you have a written routine, and I carry mine around with me in the morning, I check the boxes, my mind can solve problems. My mind is free to think about other things as I'm going through the routine things that I do in the morning. Let's be honest, they're highly tactical. They're not strategic. I don't actually have to engage to get these things done. They're rote processes that help me get everything else done. But most of my morning routine, other than my planning period, I don't really have to think about it. And so by having it written down, it frees my mind to solve, to create, to think. And I love getting up early and having a routine because the rest of the world's asleep. I don't have to worry about emails. I don't have to worry about anybody else interrupting me. There's excess energy around because I'm one of the few people around who's awake. And that quiet, that calm, that space that gets created in the morning is some of the best creative time I have, some of the best problem-solving time I have, and I'm doing it while I'm setting myself up for physiological, cognitive, and chemical success. I'm setting up my physical body for success. I'm setting up my mind, and I'm making sure that the chemical balance in my body is creating momentum before I even do anything that day. And so if you don't have a written morning routine, if you're just thinking about it, or if you have a routine at all, congratulations. You're ahead of the vast majority of the population. If you have a written routine, then you're even further ahead of the majority of the population. But if you have a written routine that you refine over time, that you practice, that you time, that you understand how long it takes you, that you work on the efficiency and the effectiveness of it, you add the things in that you quote unquote just can't find the time for, you will quickly find that you're just like the military. You're just like the special forces guys. You get more done than the rest of the world before 8 a.m. in the morning, or maybe earlier. And it might seem weird to carry a checklist around every day, but you don't realize just how functionally effective this is, just how strategic this is, and just how much it buys you until you try it for a couple weeks. Now, here's a question I get from entrepreneurs. Well, Alex, I don't even know where to start. I've never had a morning routine, right? I have a routine, but I don't really know like everything that should be in it. How do you physiologically, cognitively, chemically do all that? Well, I have a suggestion for you. I've worked on my routine for over 30 years. Hundreds of entrepreneurs use it or a slight variation of it, and you can download it by simply going to morning.sharfen.com. So morning.sharfen.com. And you can download my morning routine, which has been scientifically created over the course of, it's years now. And it is set up so that it takes me out of an adrenal cycle, out of fight or flight, and puts me into a dopamine cycle so I feel confident about the day. It physiologically sets up my body for success. It makes sure that I cover the 4 pillars of health: breathing, hydration, nutrition, and movement, all before I even get started for the day. And it can help you do all the same things, because as an evolutionary hunter, the better you can prepare yourself to take on the momentum of the day, the further you will go, the faster you will go, and the more you will get accomplished. And you will soon realize that you're getting more done than the majority of the population early, and that you can get more done than you ever have before in your life. Because when you make the first hour of your day the best hour of your day, the most productive, and you get more done, that creates momentum that will carry you through to the end of the day. So I want you and everyone who listens to the Momentum Podcast to win the day every single day. And this will create the foundational process that will allow you to do that. I appreciate you being here with me for the Momentum Podcast. Download my morning routine at morning.sharfen.com and then check in tomorrow. This is going to be an amazing week. We have our high-end mastermind clients are flying in from around the world, and I will be sharing insights and anecdotes that we get from that meeting on the podcast. So make sure you come back this week and you listen in, because we've got some pretty amazing clients, and I can't wait to share some of what comes out of this week's meetings with you. One last thought. Download the morning routine. Use it as is for a couple of days. Modify it if you feel the need to. I want to see you have more momentum in the morning than you ever thought possible. Thanks for being here with me.